Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for coming. Thank you to SOAS University for hosting us today, and to the Arabs in the UK and the International Center of Justice for Palestinians for partnering in the organization of this event. Most importantly, thank you to the women who have entrusted us with their testimonies, their time, and their truth. Today is not an academic exercise, not a symbolic gathering. It's a space of testimony, memory, and responsibility. We are gathered here to listen to Palestinian women who have survived what many legal experts, human rights organizations, the international community, and scholars described as a genocide in Gaza. Women who lived through bombardment, displacement, enforced famine, the destruction of their homes, their universities, their workplaces, and the killing of loved ones. Women who buried family members, who endured starving as a weapon of war, and who now sit in UK lecture halls carrying experience that no one should have ever to survive. These women are not here as an abstraction. They're not statistics. They're not symbols. They are here as living witnesses. Testimony is the most important and the oldest form of truth-telling. Long before legal instruments or international courts existed, people told stories. That has violence would not be erased through those stories. Suffering would not be denied because we tell stories. Future generations would know what happened when power attempts to hide and bury our truth. That is precisely why testimony matters today. We live in a moment where Palestinian suffering is constantly questioned, minimized, distorted, and denied, where the destruction of entire families is reframed as collateral damage, where starvation is described as a logistical issue, where the killing of journalists, medics, academics, students is treated as inevitable rather than as deliberate. In this climate, the act of speaking becomes resistance, but it is also an act of enormous emotional labor. To testify on the stage today is not simply to recount events. It is to reopen wounds, to relieve grief, and to place one's pain into a public space that has not always been safe or compassionate for us to do so. So before anything else, we acknowledge the courage it takes these women to speak. Thank you. We acknowledge that our listening today is not passive. It is ethical. It demands humility, attention, and responsibility. Today, we will not just hear from those 6 women. We will also hear from their experience in seeking higher education in the UK. That fact alone is extraordinary when we consider the context they come from. Gaza's entire education has been dismantled. Schools have been bombed, libraries have been destroyed, professors and students killed. Education itself has been treated as a threat. And yet, these women continue to learn, to study, to write, research, and build futures in the face of a system that has tried to erase them. Their testimonies will touch on survival, not as a metaphor, but as a daily embodied struggle. They will speak of attempting to study while living in tents, shelters, of navigating UK academic spaces while carrying trauma, and that cannot simply be left at the door of a lecture hall while they study here in the UK. They will speak about careers interrupted. They will speak about dreams deferred, and the immense psychological toll of watching one's homeland destroyed in real time, often through the same screens used for coursework and emails. And they will speak not only as victims, but as thinkers, as students, professionals, witnesses with political and intellectual agency. This is important to clarify. Palestinian women are often framed solely through their struggles. While struggle and suffering is undeniably present, it is not the sum of who they are. These testimonies are not invitations, are not make-believe, and definitely we're not here to pity them. They are calls to recognition, accountability, and action. Tonight is not about extracting stories and leaving unchanged from here. It is about bearing witness in a way that demands something of us. As we move into the testimonies, I ask everyone here to listen with care. Allow silence when it comes. Resist the urge to immediately analyze or contextualize. Let the women speak in their own words, under their own terms. May we listen, because truth does matter. First, we're going to have Saja Hamdan. Saja is a Palestinian author and activist, PhD candidate in sociology, passionate about justice, resistance, and amplifying voices under the siege and genocide through both research and literature. She is an author. Her book is The Stone Is Mine. It's being sold later on here today. She's going to tell us about a time when she left journalism.
Assalamu alaikum and hi everyone. Thank you for showing up today. Welcome everyone. It's really honor for me just like to stand before you today and next to my colleagues and friends from Gaza who witnessed 2 complete years of genocide. For me and Hala, we left Gaza a few weeks before the genocide started, and it's a completely different story to have a family and loved ones in Gaza living the genocide while you were in the United Kingdom. Because at that time, you should live in 2 completely different worlds. In one word, you should be sure that everyone is in a safe place, or they were not injured today, not slaughtered or killed or kidnapped or even jailed. And in the other word, you should meet your academic standards if you are a student, or professional standards if you were working here. You should resist the Israeli propaganda that occupies the majority of Western media outlets, and you should raise awareness about your people. You don't have the opportunity to take rest. You just keep going, holding, for example, awareness campaigns, participating in events, raising the voice of the voiceless, actually. If I want to talk about Gaza today, a lot of organizations and human rights institutions defined it as the most crowded place in the world, or the most densely crowded place in the world. And some of the humanitarian institutions and even in UN reports, they describe Gaza as a chronic emergency. And it is a chronic emergency simply because Israel is practicing 2 types of killing against Gazans. The first one is the active killing, which is purely visible in the current genocide by slaughtering children, burning tents, bombing hospitals, schools, cultural centers, and so on. And the other type of killing is the slow, long-term killing, which Israel was practicing even before the genocide started. And this type of killing could be represented by the complete siege in Gaza since 2007, denying access to healthcare, to medicine for cancer patients or even kidney disease patients, and even by the multiple military Israeli campaigns against Gaza before October 2023. Because if I want to define myself, I am a survivor of 7 Israeli aggressions against Gaza, and these 7 Israeli aggressions were before the genocide that started in October 2023. I survived Israeli aggressions in 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, 2022, and even in May 2023, there was an Israeli aggression just before the very famous one. I am sure that the majority of people, they don't know about this aggression simply because Israel was not attacked like in October the 7th. So I always ask the people one question. A lot of people know about October the 7th, but who knows about 27th of December 2008? In that very date, I was just 10 years old. I was waiting for my school bus in the middle of the street. I was living in Tel El Hawa neighborhood, Al-Abraj Street. I was in the middle of that street waiting for my school bus at 12 midday. And if you ask me why I'm waiting my school bus at 12 midday, I will say, simply because in Gaza we have two shifts, two school shifts, the morning shift and the evening shift. Simply because in Gaza, it's very crowded. We don't have enough schools to have only one shift for children to go to the school. And I was in the evening shift, waiting for my bus at the middle of the street in front of the residential tower that my family and I used to live in. Then, suddenly, at that main time, an Israeli airstrike started at the street. The both ends of the street were bombed. I only saw black flames, fire, people screaming, children running, shards of glasses just falling above my head and shoulders, and so on. I remember that day, I ran to my mom screaming, "Mom, it's the end of life. It's the last day of life. It's the day of justice," as we say, we Muslims. Then, when I get older, I discovered that Western media described all the events that I lived in that day simply as Israeli strike. They erased all the crying, the screaming, everything I lived in that very day, simply in that very short term, deleting all the screams, the cries, and allowing people to read this very cold headline while they were simply drinking their hot coffee or flipping the channels or drinking their hot chocolate. In 2021, there was another Israeli aggression, and that aggression, the residential tower where my family and I used to live in, was bombed by 6 consecutive rockets while we still inside. And while I'm talking with you today about this event, there are a lot of, I don't know, I couldn't describe my feelings because I think the feeling could not be describable by words. Okay. Yeah. I actually prepared some videos, but I couldn't present them about the bombing of our residential tower in 2021. So during that time, I used to work in both broadcast and written journalism, simply because I felt that I am voiceless in Gaza, and I felt that the world would not let us if they truly know about our struggles and about our suffer. I always believed that if the world knew about what's happened in the Nakba in 1948, or even in the massacres like Sabra and Shatallawan in 1982, or about the whole Palestinian villages that were erased, like At-Tantura village or Deir Yassin, the world will not let us suffer to that much. I used to believe this. And I started to work in journalism, writing about people. So I met a lot of people. I wrote dozens of stories about cultural events in Gaza, about simple people. This is Nasim. She is very famous, old lady in Gaza. She used to cook traditional food, and she used to live in Khan Younis, in Khza'a. I wrote a lot about martyrs, about their loved ones, about their families, because I believe that we are not numbers. Every martyr has a story to tell. So I wrote about their hobbies, the dreams they carried with them, even their favorite foods or meals, their favorite details, and so on. But when I was in Gaza, I felt that I am separated from the world because of the huge siege in Gaza. So I started searching for an opportunity to travel abroad, to complete my master's degree, to complete my higher education, to raise my education first, and secondly, to meet new people, to tell them about our stories, because I felt myself voiceless in Gaza. And when I came here to the UK in September 2023, 3 weeks before the genocide started in Gaza, I lived here while my whole family and loved ones and a lot of friends still in Gaza. I lost many, many of them. I lost a lot of colleagues and friends and loved ones. And after 1 year of screaming in the streets and the protests, and participating in panels and so on, I discovered that I am voiceless here as well. And that I lost my belief in journalism when so I lost my belief in journalism and I didn't want to be a journalist anymore, simply because it appeared for me that it's not that we are invisible. The world chose not to see us. After 2 years of hyper-visible genocide, while media outlets turning blind eye about what's happening in Gaza, using their own terms to describe the children, for example, as young people and so on, visibility doesn't produce action. Not because people did not sympathize with us. A lot of people did, like people like you, but the problem was in governments. Media played a role like they are completing the role of political complicity and political regimes. And I discovered that there is no democracies. Governments are the same in the whole world, even in the global south or in the global north. But the difference that in the global south, dictatorships are clearly declared, while in the global north, dictatorships are dressed by democracy. They are like just bragging that they have democratic regimes, they have systems, we have elections, but they're ignoring the voices of the people who were protesting in the streets every week at the United Kingdom, for example. And I discovered that it's really pointless to be a journalist. But I still believe in the human. I still believe that humanity should lead and govern and dominate, and that's why we are here today, to still educate ourselves and to educate our children, not only about how Palestine will be free, because Palestine will be free, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but definitely someday. But the problem is to educate our children how the whole world could be free as Palestine.
Thank you, Sajja. If anything, we need to understand that this is realistic experiences. Itaf Abu Hada is a master's student doing cybersecurity engineering. In Gaza, she was an established HR and finance manager. She's going to talk about a day in the life of a Gazan woman. Come on, Itaf.
I'm Itaf, and I'm 26 years old. 2 of them were under the genocide, while the other 24 years were under tens of aggressions, hundreds of challenges, and thousands of fears. I have been displaced for 5 times. One of them was in a tent. I spent there for 8 months, about 250 days, and until the last day, I didn't stop just to struggle with that tent and the life there. I want to take you through a day in the life of a Gazan woman just living in a tent. This woman will wake up if she had slept after a night full of bombings and feelings, if the morning will come and she and her family are just alive. Let's assume that this day is in summer. She will wake up as soon as the sun rises and started to heat the tent until it become like a hell. And also, she will wake up to keep the flies just away from her children's eyes. But here we go, just another day of suffering has just started. This woman needs to be a hero, going from here to there, running from tidying up the few mattresses that they had slept on, to take her child to the bathroom, while the other one will request his cup of milk, and he just wants to take his breakfast. But at that time, she will realize that they don't have a drinking water, and also they don't have the wood to heat that water. Oh, there is a noise. The neighbors are just rushing for the water truck. She and her children will go to the water truck to fill up their gallons. And if she is lucky and she had filled her gallon, she will send her children to search for just a few pieces of cardboard and wood because she couldn't afford buying wood for everyday cooking. She will go to her kitchen. Do you know? The Gazan women were used to cooking the best dishes in a very nice and organized kitchens. But now in the tent, if she has just a small table to put her dishes on, she will be so lucky. She will go just to prepare a simple breakfast if they have bread. If they didn't have that bread, she will prepare the dough and go to bake it in a distant oven, just by her own. If she or her children just want to take a shower, she needs to stand up in a line for hours to fill her gallons with the domestic water. Do you know that my mother, my sister, and I were doing that for multiple of months? We were standing in lines just to fill some of gallons and to carry the 20 liters of gallons multiple times to have a domestic water just to wash the dishes and to take a shower. And it was not clean. We was forced to use the water, which is not clean, but we have no choice. And just after standing in those lines, I was going to my work just to feel like I'm a human again. We have the water, we need to go to the bathroom. The bathroom, which is supposed to be a so private place, is being shared with multiple families in the shelter. At some time, I was sharing the bathroom with 24 people just to go to the bathroom. And the toilets are so primitive. They lack the basic human standards. It's just surrounded with some blankets or just plastic sheets with no comfy, with no any privacy. And if it's far away from the tent, women and children will be afraid from going to the bathroom at the night. They just need to wait until the morning come to go to the bathroom. Imagine if this woman has her period. Women from all over the world, in that case, just want to lie on their beds, have their painkiller, and relax. But for the Gazan woman, she doesn't have that privilege. There is nobody can take all of these responsibilities. She needs to do all of that while she has that pain. She doesn't have painkiller, she doesn't have that privilege, and even she doesn't have the sanitary pads. And what I'm sure about, that everything in the tent is harder, even the period. All of the body characteristics will be changed. Yeah, let's go to the lunch. If the family couldn't afford to buy food, as most of the families in the Gaza Strip, she or her children need to go to the Turkey It's just a place that they need to have just a small bowl of lentil soup or maybe beans. It's very crowded. People are pushing just to have that small bowl. And if they are lucky, they will get something. If they are not, the children will starve. If she wants to wash her clothes or her children's clothes, she needs to wash every piece by hand. Most of the time, there was no washing powder. We were using just low quality types, and actually my fingers were hurting all the time because of that. What about if all of that happened in the winter, like what's happening now? The tents are torn apart by the rain and blown away by the wind. The rain enters the tent and floods everything. Mattresses, clothes, flour, food, and even the people themselves, they are wet, and they don't have any place just to sit in. I couldn't forget the day when that happened, and all of my clothes were wet, and I have to go to the work. I warn them while they are wet, and just go, because I need to feel like a human. I don't want to live that life. Even if we accepted the tents, which we couldn't accept, we will suffer. Do you know that the married woman says to the girls that they are not married, that you are so lucky? And I seemed to be one of those lucky girls. But you know, they say that because that you are not responsible. You don't have to do anything for your children. I seem to be lucky, but I was responsible for my whole family. I was the breadwinner for my whole family. Before the genocide, I was working as a cybersecurity engineer in an international organization, but during the genocide, they have ended my contract, and after that, I didn't want to stand idly by. I went just to volunteer, to help the people in shelters, just to feel that like I'm doing something. I don't want to die. I don't want to be killed while I'm waiting. I want to be killed while I'm fighting. And during all of that time, I was applying for my scholarships. I was applying for the UK universities. For maybe 4 to 5 months, I was applying, maybe as a full-time job, going in the morning to a workspace, which is just a big tent, to connect to the world. And after that, I secured the 3 fully funded scholarships in the UK universities. And now I'm studying my master's degree in cybersecurity engineering at Warwick University in the United Kingdom. And you know, I know that it was not easy, but all of the women, all of the girls in Gaza deserve to live another life, deserve to live a better life, because we create our chances. All of our life was not easy. It's not just about the genocide. And every day we were suffering, but we will not stand idly by. We need to do something. We don't want to be like victims. We are creating our chances, we are creating our lives, and we deserve a better life.
Thank you for sharing, Itaf. That was very inspirational in contrast of what's happening. Amani Abu Mandil, she's doing her MA in Human Rights, Culture and Social Justice, mashallah. She's going to tell us a story about Shades of Hope. Thank you, Amani. Come here.
Actually, I received an invitation to speak today about my experience during the genocide as a woman in Gaza. So I thought for a long time, what should I say? Should I talk about destroyed homes, or about numbers? So I decided to talk about my experience during the genocide as a woman, because this is the strongest thing that I have. Actually, I wrote my story to read it from my phone, as it may be easier than trying to remember it, because I am, until now, following up with my psychologist. Thank you, Zainab, because she encouraged me to say that, because it's not shame to follow up with a doctor, psychologist. So when the genocide started, the first thing I received an email that this the last month for you as a project coordinator. So this is the first loss for me during the genocide. And you can imagine that you lost your future in just a second by one email. So I started to research for scholarships. In the first months of the genocide, I applied to more than 10 scholarships. Hoping that just one would work. This was not easy. The internet cutoff was always cut off in Al-Maghazi refugee camp when I live. So I used to walk 5 kilometers to the seaside area of Al-Zawaida just to check scholarships. Then I would walk to home to prepare the requirements of the scholarships. Then I repeat this and go to another day to apply for scholarships. One day while I was returning to house, a home next to me was bombing. Then I injured. And until now, I cannot forget the sight of bodies around me. This was enough to make me lose hope in the life, because more than 40 people was targeted in this home, and I was next to this home. Sorry, this has came to my mind. Actually, I stopped to applying for scholarships until I complete my treatment, because my family decided for me to go to a psychologist. And my family was terrified. They began me to stop. Convincing them to continue was another battle. I continued like this for almost 2 months. On January 4th, a ground operations started in my camp without any evacuation warning. Our house was at the entrance of the camp. Tanks are at the end of our street. Our home was sheltering displaced people, more than 50 persons. So we didn't understand how dangerous it was. Then we received a call from the Israeli army, evacuate now. We left at sunset, heading toward Rafah. Rafah is very far from our neighborhood, from Al-Maghazi camp. It felt like traveling to another world. Because of the danger at night, we couldn't reach Rafah before that, so we should sleep at the street. And you can imagine, before one day, you are in your room, in your bed, and suddenly you are in the street in January. And you can imagine that we have kids with us. And until now, I couldn't forget my feeling of cold. At that moment, I forget everything. I forget my future. To think about your future is luxury. Because in genocide, even thinking about yourself like a luxury, all you think about is how to survive. I realized this. At that moment, we didn't take anything with us to Rafah. So my job transferred from as a project coordinator, as HR and finance manager, to collecting wood, to stand at water, you feel like you lost your dignity. Life in Rafah was another kind of suffering. Here was no internet, no way to follow up anything about the news, about scholarships. Even I forget that I was applying for scholarships. One day, I thought I have lost my chance for a Doha Institute scholarship, but after 1 month, in Rafah, we finally connected to the internet. We finally connected to the world. That's when I found out that I had been accepted into a scholarship. My sister outside Gaza couldn't reach us to tell me, hope came back. I continued applying to scholarships in the UK. I kept going to places with better, maybe connection and hope to find a scholarship in the UK. In May 2024, Rafah crossing was destroyed. Travel became almost impossible. I felt like all my efforts was wasted. But I continued. I received these scholarships here in the UK. I received 3 scholarships. In addition to a Doha Institute scholarship. Still, I could not leave Gaza. My university asked me to defer. I felt into deep depression, and I lost my hope again. My family suggested I to work, so I worked in a French international organization.
That's fine. You've done brilliantly. You've done amazing. You've really done so well. Okay. Do you want to say something? تروح تودي؟ ايش تحبي تعمل؟ تعال امشي انا معك. تعال امشي معك. امشي معك. Thank you, Amani. Incredibly brave. This is what it means to have these personal experiences and, most importantly, to share them. I think we've become a little bit desensitized, seeing it through screens and not really understanding what a struggle it is to survive in a genocide, to always have to bury your loved ones, to think about futures, to plan for kids, to encourage female members of your family to work and to seek education, forgetting that a lot of the burden is on the females because they have to deal with a lot. They have to deal with the family. They have to deal with their own needs, physical needs. Next, we're going to hear from Dana Hamdan. She's going to talk about the challenges of education under genocide. Thank you, Dana.
Hi, I'm Dana Hamdan, and before the war, I was just 18 years old student in the high school. graduating from high school with the second top achiever on Palestine, and just thank you. And before the war began, by 2 months, it was just full of ceremonies, as education is something very important in Palestine, as we are considering it as the only weapon we have. However, after starting my medical school and just like feeling all the efforts were paid off finally, the genocide began, and just the sufferness come back as usual every single time. Just the genocide began, all universities have been devastated completely, or becoming a place for displacing people. So the first 2 months of this genocide was something very terrible for me, because I was just being up to date with the news, knowing the number of the murderers, which was something incredible and unbelievable at all. However, after these 2 months, I felt like I can't hear anything anymore. Just I want some rest of the bombing voices that just doesn't stop for a single minute in our backgrounds. The numbers and the people we know that are being killed every single moment, and in every single bombing, I just imagine how much people will die in this bombing, because every bombing are targeting a new house and a new family, and they are killing a new family and just erasing it. And sometimes you just can't find any remains of these families. They are so. I just isolated myself, and I felt like I should now just make myself busy with anything. I just want to make my mind think about something else and have other things, because I think I will not stand for all of these things. So I started my journey with searching for scholarships and opportunities outside of Gaza, because it was so obvious that there are no opportunities at all here in Gaza for the future, because after 2 months, everything have been devastated, and all the education system have been devastated completely. So actually, the first time I can remember it very clearly, the signals in Gaza, the internal signals, so you can just call anyone inside Gaza. There were no signals, no internet connections, nothing. So if you get out of your home, you will not know anything about your home, and your family will not know anything about you until you come back. However, I was so determined that I want to start searching, because just waiting is maybe more painful for me than just sitting and listening to all bombings and thinking that I will be maybe the next bombing. So I remember that we searched internet hotspots, and I told my father that I really want to go there, and he just take me there. I went the first time under the sounds of and the buzzing of the jet planes above me, and the bombing doesn't stop at all. Walking there and just going to a spot that a lot of people gathering for internet, despite the occupation, the Israeli army are targeting every single gathering of people. I think I just started to make schedules and to to maximize the time of the internet. So to talk about the challenges, especially about what I faced, and every single student are facing, I think, till now. First of all, is the limited hours of what you can be connected, because we are rely on the solar system completely. So first of all, if it's a rainy day or it's just the sun, there is just a limited hours for electricity or internet you can be connected. Also, the lack of papers, the official textbooks, everything have been bombed, all libraries, all universities. So also there are no papers, no textbooks. So you also rely on the online resources at the same time. So this, I think, one of the biggest challenges of the students there. They don't know how to study. There are no papers, and also there are the online sources, they cannot study properly because of the lack of internet and electricity. Also, other challenge is, of course, the mental health of everyone. Every one of us have lost a lot of people. Like, for instance, when as I said, I just tried to busy my mind of everything and just stop watching the news. After maybe 2 months, I just opened social media, and I remember that I found 2 of my friends have been killed with the whole of their families. And one of them, they can't find any remains of them to just bury them. However, everything was everything was not indicate to that there is something positive will happen. All borders are closed. Everything just telling me to stop trying. They are closing every single way we are trying to live through. Like cafes, they are bombing all cafes that offer internet. They are bombing every library. They are bombing every single thing that they think we will live, and we will just have a rest of what we are living. However, I was so determined, and I just worked until the last moment I was in Gaza, trying to contact, to submit statements, and to search for each and for every opportunity I can find. Because I was thinking that the hardest thing, especially for Dana, it's just being constant for a very long time. Like 2 years without any progress, it was something very hard for me. So I think it was the only thing that I think I'm making something at least. Because as you see, I'm just a student. I can't benefit my community, and at the same time, I can't do any progress of my life. So I think that was the most thing that hurt me, and of course, other than the war and the losing of lives. However, as you see, I'm here today, and I hope the situation in Palestine proves very soon. I'm not the only one, I'm not the last one who are so determined, because all the Palestinian people really deserve better life. They really don't deserve any of what they are living till now in the tents with the rainy weathers. And losing their dignity, while they are very good people and they are trying every single way to live properly. So I just, at the end, I will love to say, I'm happy I'm happy to see you that you are standing and at least trying to do difference and to give back some of the rights to the Palestinian people.
I think a running theme of what we're hearing today is just the persistence of success. And I think it's so important because we don't realize the obstacles that they have in place to realize that their ambition is legitimate, right? And another constant theme that we don't tend to relate to because we don't live the same reality is the wanting of life, the seeking of future. And I think for us, we take that for granted. I think we're here to learn something today. Our next speaker is Suha Abu Eid. She's going to tell us a story of her friend Reem. She is a PhD candidate in life and health sciences.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm not here to talk about myself, rather than I will be telling you a story. Almost 33 years ago, a beautiful little girl was born into a loving and caring family. She was born into a home filled with warmth, simplicity, and deep values. Her father was a fisherman, a man whose life was tied to the sea, and who loved to take his family with him in the early morning hours when the sky was still soft and the world was quiet. That little girl grew up to be surrounded by love, responsibility, and humility. And she carried those qualities with her for the rest of her life. That little girl grew into one of the kindest, most humble, and most intelligent women I have ever known. She was the eldest child in her family, and anyone who comes from a large family knows what that means. It means responsibility at a young age. It means being strong even when you are tired. It means becoming a second parent, a guide, and a safe place for your siblings. Reem carried that role naturally. Her siblings didn't just love her, they depended on her. She was the one they went for an advice, reassurance, and direction. And I can stand here today confidently saying she was the best sister anyone could have ever had. Her name was Reem al-Khatib, and she was not just my best friend for the past 15 years. She will be my best friend for life. I met Reem in our senior year of high school. Even back then, she had a clear dream. She wanted to become a doctor, and truly, she had the mind for it. She was disciplined, focused, and brilliant in a quiet and unshowy way. She never needed to prove how smart she was. Everyone could clearly see it. At that time, we couldn't be more different. Reem was the committed, hardworking student, and I was the lazy one, the girl who hated school, hated studying, and did everything possible to avoid responsibility. And yet, somehow, life brought us together. And somehow, despite all the odds, I ended up here today doing my PhD in the UK. And I say this with no hesitation. I owe a huge part of my journey to Reem. She sat in the front row of the classroom, always paying attention, taking notes. I sat at the very last seat, just where I could sleep, joke around, and get shouted at by the teachers, and sometimes by Reem, because she really wanted to learn. She really wanted to be better. Even then, she cared. Even then, she was serious about becoming better. After high school, fate played one of its strangest games. Somehow, the smart student and the lazy one ended up in nursing school. I remember the relief and happiness. I saw a familiar face in an overwhelming chapter of my life. And from that moment on, she continued being exactly who she was always. Reem was the kind of smart that made others want to be better, to improve, and not out of competition, but out of admiration. She never made you feel less for not knowing something. Instead, she lifted you up. The moment you said, "Hey, Reem, can you help me with this?" she would start talking, simplifying, and encouraging you. To be completely honest, I passed chemistry class and other courses just because of her. And when I reflect on my life, I realized that many of the things I managed to achieve were possible because Reem was there, pushing me through, believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. We both graduated nursing school with distinction. We both found jobs immediately. And again, I need to be honest, I didn't want to apply. I was tired, unmotivated, and unsure. But Reem, along with our best friend, Aya, pushed me. They convinced me, and thank God they did, because I truly cannot imagine who I would have become without these two brilliant women standing beside me. Reem worked for years as a pediatric nurse. She loved children deeply, and children felt safe with her. Later, she made the decision to move into neonatal intensive care. And I'm not saying this because she's my best friend. She was exceptional. She was one of those nurses who you'd hope your baby gets. Calm hand, a gentle voice, deep compassion, strong clinical skills, paired with a heart that never closed. She was always on the front lines. Even when there was talks last year about the hospital she used to work at, that they will need to evacuate, she still showed up for work. And even though she was living in a tent, I used to shout at her, telling her, "You have a little girl now to think about." She told me, and I remember this, "If I don't go, who will be there? Who will take care of the newborn babies?" That was Reem. That was always Reem. She was selfless to her core, giving beyond her limit. Even when she was exhausted, even when she was unwell, she would show up for others. If you needed care, she was there. If your baby needed a nurse, she was there. And I truly believe that many babies are alive today because Reem was their nurse. I feel incredibly privileged to say that I was part of that extraordinary woman's life. I witnessed her becoming the woman she was meant to be. I saw her get engaged. I saw her walking in that beautiful wedding dress, glowing with happiness. I stood beside her during her pregnancy. I was there when her daughter, Sarah, took her first breath. I held that precious little girl for the first time. I was also her midwife during her second pregnancy, a pregnancy that never saw the light. Like nearly 55,000 Palestinian women pregnant and breastfeeding, she suffered from severe malnutrition. During that pregnancy, despite everything, she continued. In the final weeks of her life, she had just begun to regain her health. With proper treatment, her health was improving. She was hopeful. We were hopeful. At 28 weeks of pregnancy, on the 29th of July, 2025, the world lost an incredible human being. That night, Reem refused to leave her home, which was already partially damaged, because her mother-in-law was elderly and too sick to walk in the middle of the night. Reem stayed, and along with more than 15 members of her husband's family, she was killed. I remember that night clearly. I couldn't sleep because the bombing was relentless. The sounds were overwhelming, but I had no idea that one of those bombs had taken my best friend. A bomb so powerful that it tore her unborn baby from her womb and threw her baby body 50 meters away from her body that was shattered into fragments. A photo of her unborn daughter circulated online. And when I saw that picture, my heart stopped. She was beautiful. She looked just like her sister, Sarah. Both had their mother's big, beautiful eyes, and I couldn't help but wonder, if they had lived, who would they have become? Would they have been funny like their mama? Gentle, strong, intelligent, brave. I know that they would have been, because if your mother was Reem, you were destined to be extraordinary. Standing here is not enough to talk about her life and to tell her whole story. They are not enough to describe her kindness, her strength, the impact she had on lives, and her love. But Please remember this. We did not just lose one person. We lost an exceptional nurse, a devoted friend, a loving sister, a daughter, a wife, a mother, and a woman whose absence has left a space that could never be felt. Reem al-Khatib lived a life of purpose. She will never be forgetting. And I'm here today to make sure that she is remembered for the way she lived and not the way she was killed.
Our next speaker is Hala Hanina. She is a PhD researcher in politics sociology. Through her research, writing, and activism, she has advanced critical understanding to settler colonialism, structural violence, and the erasure of Palestinian futures while amplifying Palestinian voices and gendered perspectives often silenced in mainstream media.
Lovely meeting you. And sorry, my voice is shaky, I think, as everyone here. It's my privilege, I'm really honored to join those beautiful, powerful, smart women and share the stage with them. We must remember that this is the first time they speak since they got out of Gaza. They lived 2 years of genocide that we all have watched live streamed on TV. They lived it every single day, every single night. And they survived it. And they came today to share a little story, 10 minutes of that long 2 years of genocide. So we need to remember that everything that they went through is something that we need to appreciate, that they were able to stand up here and share it with us. And to remember that their families are still in Gaza. Their beloved ones are still in Gaza. And so the 2 million people in Gaza living now. I'm Hala Shuman, Palestinian from Gaza. I left Gaza a few days before the genocide has started for my PhD in the UK, unfortunately. And I left there my husband, my parents, my siblings, and everyone I love. And the genocide started. I tried to go back to Gaza, I couldn't because of the Israeli bombing of the borders. And tomorrow is when I submit my PhD. I'm not sharing this because I'm proud of the PhD. I should be proud. It's 4 years of my life, but it was the beginning of my life project in Gaza to work on anti-colonialism, on decolonialism, and such things with the community. However, I'm not that proud of that because Israel have killed the participants I worked with, many of the people I interviewed, many of the decision makers I also worked and collaborated with, and killed the project itself. 2 years of relentless suffering, of killing, of maiming, of deformation of Gaza have put an end for my PhD project, and now it only exists on paper, unfortunately. However, I'm proud that through the last 2 years of the genocide, I didn't only focus on my academic progress. I focused on Gaza. I focused on the genocide. And coming here today is not exceptional. It's what I've done. Even if I'm submitting tomorrow, I'll be here for Gaza. Gaza will always, and Palestine will be the priority. And that should not be only me. It should be all of us. Yes. Because if you know or if you don't know, the genocide in Gaza is not over. When the ceasefire started, my cousins, Linda and Lana, felt relieved. They were not happy. They told me, we're not happy. Our family, our relatives, our homes, all are gone. And people in Gaza are grieving. But we're relieved that our daughters, little daughters, survived. It was the only thing they were relieved about. And they were staying in a tent. They lost their home. They live in Rafah. Rafah is still with Israel. They can't even go back there. So they live in tents around the beach in those circumstances. On the 29th of October, 2025, it's the ceasefire, as it's called. Israel have bombed them. Their little daughters were killed. Both of them were injured. and went to the ICU for operations. Do you think, even if the bombing stopped, do you think that the genocide has over for them? No. And it's not just not over for them because they have lost their daughters, but because actually the genocide is not over. We are at different stages of ceasefire. This is the first stage only. Israel have breached it multiple times, tens of times already, killed around 400 people within the ceasefire, including my cousin's daughters. It's not over because Israel have injured more than 100,000 people. If we're not talking about the immediate effect, or if we're not talking about the immediate bombing of the land, we need to remember what the 2 years of genocide have established on the ground. On the ground, we have more than 100,000 people injured, severely injured. We have the largest amputees population in the world, in Gaza, made by Israel. We have more than 40,000 orphan children in Gaza. 20 of them lack mom and dad, so have no parents at all. And you can imagine the circumstances now in Gaza. Flooding, rains, cold, no even tents or makeshift tents, and no aids entering Gaza. Israel should have allowed around 600 aid trucks daily into Gaza. Now we're almost 3 months of this so-called ceasefire, and less than 1,000 aid trucks got into Gaza. Where's the ceasefire? With the flooding and rain, it's not just that Israel has stopped bombing a little bit, that it's not responsible. Israel have created the conditions for killing to continue. The 15 children and adults that were killed because of the collapse of building over them because of the rain and winds is done by Israel. Israel have engineered that. The famine, people dying from famine and malnourishment, is done by Israel. The babies, 8 months old and a few days old babies that were killed of cold, is also done by Israel and maintained by it. They're not allowing infrastructure rebuilding, they're not allowing rubble to be removed, they're not allowing caravans or places for people to stay in. So people are dying. So is that the end of the genocide? It's not. We have always to remember that Israel have created conditions on the ground where they have made 2 Gaza. Now we have 2 Gaza, East Gaza and West Gaza. East Gaza is totally controlled, isolated, and with Israel. Any Palestinian coming close to that is killed. Doesn't matter the age of them. And in East Gaza, which the US and Trump peace plan calls the green zone, where we can't go, there is less than 50% on the West Gaza, the red zone, according to Trump again, where 2 million people are staying in less than half of the land that they used to stay in, when in the good times, when Sajah have said it was the most crowded place on the earth. It was named as an open-air prison years before, even Israel taking half of it, or more than half of it. So we're talking about 2 million people who can't survive within a very small piece of land. And at the same time, we need to remember that Gaza now is not just occupied by Israel. We're occupied by Zionists, we're colonized by Israel and all of that. But now it's also the US. The US is actively occupying Gaza with Israel now. UK is also complicit. And we need always to remember that it's true. Trump is an issue. Netanyahu is an issue. Keir Starmer here is an issue too. They're not helping. However, they are not the issue. The issue is in the system. The system itself that's built on colonialism, imperialism, killing others and dehumanizing them. How many times have you seen Gazans speak on mass media in the UK? How many times? I tried to approach them hundreds of times, reaching out to them, sending them my bio and telling them, I have family, I can witness. I only left few days from the genocide. I know hundreds of people who have been killed, and no answer. So we need to remember that the system itself must be dismantled. And for that to happen, we need all of you, all of your strength. I know that the genocide had a ceasefire after 2 years, and that is very disappointing, but it happened. And that happened because of you. Because you stayed faith. You believed that it will happen as long as you make effort and make action. And this is what we need. We don't need empathy. We need action, solidarity, a continuous one. So powerful women like them would survive. We have plenty of such beautiful women and men in Gaza. We need to save them, and also to make sure that all Palestine is free. And as Sajah have said, without the freedom of Palestine, the world will never be free.
I think it's really important to always recognize that these women speak from strength, not sympathy. Right? We're going to have a legal representative from the ICJP. Dania Abul Haj will speak from a legal and archival perspective, because testimony plays a crucial role in building historical records, challenging denial, and supporting future accountability processes. International law does not operate in a vacuum. It relies on evidence, documentation, on voices that refuse to be silenced. Without testimony, atrocities disappear into euphemism. With testimony, they become undeniable. It's not just morally important, but it is legally vital. So she will speak more about the legal process. Thank you, Dania.
My God, it's always very difficult to speak after amazing Palestinian women who have shared amazing testimonies. I mean, you sit down, you prepare what you want to say on these panels, and then you come and listen to things. I've been exposed to these things for years, and they still impact me as if it's my first time hearing them. So I would like to say that I'm honestly honored to speak alongside amazing Palestinian women, women that know the meaning of survival, perseverance, sacrifice, and dignity like no other. It is women like you that give me the strength every morning to wake up and do what I do. So thank you. I want to also say that I'm really happy to at least have the opportunity to be able to speak alongside women from Gaza, something that wouldn't be possible in our homeland, Palestine. I am a Palestinian from Jerusalem, born and raised there. And due to Israel's fragmentation of our homeland and heavy restrictions placed between Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, all of us being in the same room together would be impossible there. This fragmentation that has been deliberately designed to create different lived realities and experiences for each and every single one of us in an attempt to fragment our unity as Palestinians under our ethnic erasure. And my God, am I feeling so privileged right now to live a less oppressed reality. Hearing testimonies from witnesses today, witnesses that survived a genocide, is of utmost importance for many reasons. Firstly, and mostly, it is giving back Palestinians agency over their own voice, their own narrative, their own stories. For so many years, people have spoken on our behalf. Mainstream media, politicians, they have coined the narrative in whatever way worked best for them, in whatever way looked more appealing to their audiences, to their allies. However, for the past 2 years, Palestinians were able to regain back their agency over our own voice, our own lived realities. And despite the massive push from mainstream media and some Western politicians to conceal and manipulate the true intentions of the Israeli occupation and its authorities, The world no longer believes twisted narratives about the right to self-determination, to self-defense that comes at the expense of a genocide against the Palestinian population. For the past 2 years, us at ICJP, alongside many other organizations that work in the same field, we've been collecting first-hand witness testimonies from survivors, mainly to use them in legal proceedings, but also to make sure that we document and preserve evidence for generations to come. The database we've collected includes valuable evidence from medical professionals who went on medical delegations in Gaza. They document attacks on medical infrastructure, Israel's use of starvation as a deliberate policy against the Palestinian population, and many other crimes which I'll be speaking about in just a minute. We have also collected statements from first-hand witnesses that have left Gaza, genocide survivors that have over and over told us about their survivors' guilt to survive a genocide. What a heavy thing to witness. From a legal perspective, witness testimonies offer credible evidence to be relied on in legal proceedings, specifically due to the lack of other monitoring and investigative methods that are able to enter Gaza at the moment, due to Israel's obstruction of all of these, in an attempt to conceal and hide the truth. That's why all the witness evidence that we've collected over the past 2 years, we've used in legal proceedings. This has included providing all of the witness statements that we were collecting to South Africa's legal team that used them in their legal proceedings before the International Court of Justice against Israel in their case under the Convention on Genocide. We also have supported Glan and Al-Haq's legal challenge on the arms challenge before the High Court in the UK by providing some witness statements to support that. We've also provided that to other international courts, including the International Criminal Court. This evidence has also been used in legal work in the UK, mainly in our complaints to the Metropolitan Police here. Most of these were thematic complaints about war crimes that were committed against Palestinians, starvation used as a method of warfare against the Palestinian population in Gaza, and other complaints where we've named perpetrators of these crimes and demanded that the police, and specifically SO15, a department that is tasked with investigating international crimes, investigate and uphold its responsibilities. We also did bring a private prosecution against a British-Israeli individual under the Foreign Enlistment Act for serving in the Israeli Defense Forces or occupying forces and fighting in Gaza over the past 2 years. I can stand here and talk about how much legal work has been done over the past 2 years by either ICJP or other legal organizations. But the matter of the fact is that time and time again, the findings that we have been able to document and unravel through witness testimonies all speak about policies and crimes that have been implemented to destroy the Palestinian population in Gaza, all while maintaining an oppressive military grip over the rest of the Palestinian population and the rest of the occupied Palestinian territory. Just a few of the crimes that we were able to document were the forcible transfer of the Palestinian population from the north to the south via what was designated as safe routes, while these people reported being deliberately targeted over and over on these designated safe routes, and what shows the deliberate policy to target the civilian population. There were no safe zones in Gaza whatsoever. Nowhere was safe. What we've also seen was a deliberate destruction of all vital infrastructure in Gaza that was indispensable for the survival of the Palestinian population, including banks, water, telecommunications, water and electricity, gas, schools, medical infrastructure, hospitals targeted over and over again. Heavy airstrikes and destruction of refugee camps, already more devastated areas to begin with higher population, most dense population. And also deliberately disrupting food supply chains, imposing a siege, restricting work of humanitarian organizations, and replacing them with GHF centers that were used as a hub of crimes against Palestinians, including the direct and deliberate shootings of civilians in a sports-like manner. I genuinely don't believe that there are any words in any language that are capable of depicting the brutality employed against Palestinians in Gaza. More than 2 million Palestinians on a daily basis, targeted over and over in the most horrifying ways possible. What we've seen over the past 2 years is the result of years of unchecked impunity granted to Israel and the complete and blatant disregard for Palestinians and any of their rights. And our only fault was being born Palestinian. However, the tide is shifting slightly, though it's hard to see hope in these times. Through different efforts employed across many sectors, we have seen the International Criminal Court issue arrest warrants for 2 Israeli officials, Netanyahu and Gallant. We have also seen the International Court of Justice issue provisional measures time and time again. We have seen a number of UN experts and international organizations and scholars affirm that what was happening on the ground was genocide. All this in a climate of bullying and thuggery by the United States through the imposition of sanctions on people working in either these courts and institutions, alongside the sanctioning of Palestinian civil society organizations. And why I say this is because to us it might seem that legal work is slow, it's futile, but this climate that they're operating in shows the importance of the work that is being done, even if we can't see the results of it right now on the ground. So what can be done from your end? You people, everyone here. Right now we are seeing an unprecedented curtailing of civil liberties in the UK on every front, but most especially on expressing solidarity with the Palestinian people. Even this week, more phrases have been deemed unacceptable by the Metropolitan Police, deemed an act of Orwellian thought crime. New legislations like the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act, the Public Order Act, and Criminal Justice Bill that is going through Parliament right now are all designed to take away your voice simply because you're saying what the government don't want you to say. All this pressure is designed to make you stop, and this is exactly why you shouldn't. The truth is that there are pressure points everywhere, and the list is endless, and some of which you can write to your local councillor or university dean to get them to divest from companies complicit in genocide and occupation. You can go on marches, write to your MP, sign petitions calling for sanctions on Israel and an end to the arms exports, join a trade union that supports Palestine, donate to organizations providing either humanitarian aid or legal services, boycott, vote against any party that supports policies complicit in genocide, listen to Palestinian people, something that everyone has done today. All too often, you see panels where there's not a single Palestinian on the panel, and everyone else is opining on our experiences and our future. Even well-intentioned people can sometimes dictate our reality to us. So listen to what Palestinian people have to say, and what they are saying, and what they're calling for. Solidarity must be with us, not for us. And finally, accountability, though it has been denied for a long time, is of utmost importance, especially in a climate where countries are being complicit, specifically the UK, actively complicit in a genocide taking place against the Palestinians in Gaza. And therefore, the work of people in different fields, legal field, social field, any field, is very important. It is through that solidarity that we can work together. And on a very final note, for now, a lot of people ask about hope and what, makes us as Palestinians do this work and keep going. And I say that our collective memory as Palestinians and our entire being are tainted by the physical texture of a life under Israel's military oppressive grip. And though we do not know of a life that is different from this, you grow up and always in your stomach and in your skin, there's a strong feeling of protest. Why should we feel this life to be intolerable unless we were greatly cheated of a life that could have been? A life that we will have through our constant work. Thank you, everyone.
The amount of times we've asked for appointments with parliamentarians only to refuse or postpone, but we shall persevere. Okay, question and answer time. If you do have a question to any of our speakers or Dania about the legal process.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon everyone. We cannot pass this event without showing our grateful to our great platform Al-Arab in UK, which they allow this opportunity. And with such emotional moments, we all of us hear it and being with it. So how if you live in it? I'm Dr. Lana Al-Sumaidi, the head of Muslim Women's Society for the Future, Iraqi British, which I wish a lovely future for you lovely young ladies. And alhamdulillah ala salamatkum. And inshallah all the best as long as you have the hope, inshallah. Amani, Seja, Suha, as far as I heard, even Dana and Itaf. All of us you just mentioned, there's a quick question comes up to my head. You mentioned going to work. So the question comes to me, is there really a work after all the genocide and demolishing everything? The second question, after going to work, because we will never give up, isn't it? Is there salaries? Money is a life, isn't it? So is there any salaries you can earn? Then to go for any corner shop and buy anything to be just staying in this life? So yes, studying, yes, things I believe that can continue with bombing everything, but work and places to go. So is there things and then salaries? And then after that, is there any place to go and buy anything? Definitely all the appeals which I hold, alhamdulillah, some of them, which we believe that, yeah, they are there, but buying things and living as a normal person in this world.
I shouldn't speak. None of us should speak after you've spoken. You are incredible. I have lived long enough. I've come out from as a refugee. I have not seen more iconic, more powerful, and more good example of Palestinian women like you. The emotions are high. It is not wrong to cry. I sometimes cannot hold emotions in public, but I go and cry in private. It is normal. It is human. What you have gone through is a lot for anybody to cope with, but you have conquered, and you are now projects for rebuilding Gaza. Don't keep dwelling on the tragedy and the pain. Each one of you is a big project. You may not see it, you may not feel it. I can feel it, and I can see it. Please do the following. I'm sorry, I'm not asking questions, but I really feel strongly about talking about what
Rightfully
the
so.
responsibilities responsibility you should be holding. You are now have more responsibilities than you have left. It's not your family, it is Gaza and Palestine. You are so incredible. If the media sees you, I think it's a different story. This is why they are killing life in Gaza. This is why they're killing everything, because each one of you is enough to rebuild 3 times of Gaza. Thank you so much. Don't feel sorry for yourself. You don't need psychiatric help. You will be a psychiatrist yourself. This pain will disappear. The memory of it will never disappear, but it is building strength within you, and it will be you, the strong tragedy survivor, genocide survivor, who has conquered in spite of all the odds. We've all seen They've killed dogs, they've killed donkeys who bring life. They shot tanks that bring life. They don't want people to live in Gaza. They want them out. You have shown us examples that in spite of the difficulty, in spite of losing jobs, in spite of losing family, we are still standing and we believe Palestine will be free and we will all be free. We will hopefully all, the world mentality and psyche will be free once they realize the reality of Gaza. Your 3 pointers. Number 1, people are not blind to what you are going through or what Palestinians are going through. They are aware. The reality is being suppressed by powerful media or other organization, but they could not stop it anymore after the Tawafan al-Aqsa has appeared. The streets of the West, the streets of the East have been flooded with sympathy and with support for Palestine. This is a phenomenon that we have not seen before. The second pointer you need to realize, which we like it or not, you have changed mindset of Arabs and Palestinians, never mind Arabs or Western opinion. There are now, the big challenge for you is how to represent yourself in front of the opposite view. We're not gonna cover over all the cracks. There will be opposition to your story. There will be denial to your story. You have to be prepared. You have not to break down, and you have to face it. Last and most important, Britain is not the final destination. We all hopefully will be celebrating in Gaza. You need to be thinking, and I want to, hopefully us, Sawt al-Arab, the organizer, to connect us with you to see how we together could organize and help build and give back to Gaza the life that you are now seeing and the support that maybe you are seeing, but they are not. There is a lot of restrictions of sending money to Gaza, sending people to Gaza. They're trying to close them, almost making a concentration camp. With your help, we need to start finding ways where we can mobilize and find mechanism to link and send support more than we hear and more than the organized organization or charities.
Thank you, sir.
I admire Alu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the inspirational words and the advice you give to the ladies. The first question was about how does Korea work under genocide? Who would like to answer?
I would like to go first.
Go on.
Itaf mentioned that she wanted to feel human. So I was fortunate enough to have a job to look forward to, a place to go to every day. It gave me purpose. I work in the health sector, so I had a purpose to go for. So it wasn't, in Gaza, it's not like everything has stopped. In some sense, it did. A lot of things have stopped in Gaza. But at the same time, you couldn't just cross your hands and hope for it to be over. You had to do something. And having a work was that for me. So I used to go to work along a lot of Palestinians. So work wasn't the issue. A lot of us actually lost their opportunities, but that wasn't the case for me. I did go to work. It was from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I worked in the primary healthcare sectors, so my job was mainly involved in taking care of pregnant women. And salary-wise, because I was working with an international institution, it was easy for me to get my salary. And again, I was fortunate because I knew money would be coming every month. Was the money enough? Never. I would have been more grateful if I had 10 times the salary that I had, because I could barely survive. And for me, I was the breadwinner as well, because my sisters have lost their job, my brother lost his job, my mom and my dad are retired teachers, so I was the only one bringing money to the home. But it wasn't difficult for me to do that because I wanted to be there for my family. But you can't actually access your money. So there was money, but how can you access it? Because there were no banks active. So you had to go to the black market. And when you go to the black market, you have to pay commission. And commission was almost 55% of your own money. And not simple math, 55, no. It was 55 or 55 or 55. So you end up with 80% of your money gone. So what do? Thankfully, again, I was fortunate because I had friends, and friends, yeah, they will stand up for you when you need something. So I usually would just transfer money to my friends, and they would give it to me in cash, because in Gaza you can't actually use your phone to pay for anything. It's just there for show, and not even the cards. So you either rely on your friends to get money, or you go to get a commission. Sometimes some of the sellers used like money transfer. So I would buy something and I would transfer the money for the seller. But usually that was double the price. So there were goods. If you had money, you can buy them. But it was very little goods that will, yeah, and you're basically stuck with eating the same thing over and over and over and over again. Wow. So some days there are a lot of movies out there talking about how you repeat the same day, and some days felt like that. I'm just repeating and repeating and repeating the same day. Like I would go to work, there was this little boy selling something. I forgot what he was selling, but he was there on 8 o'clock every single morning. And I would go there and I go to my work. I would finish up and I go home again, and I would just like, it's a cycle.
Thank you,
repetitive cycle. But yeah, I was fortunate.
Thank you, Sarah. I think a follow-up question was, how do you feel productive in genocide? How do you feel self-established?
If I can answer.
Oh, sorry, yes, continue.
Okay, so for me it was different. You asked if there is work. Yeah. Maybe you can find work if you are not stuck to your standards. As I told before, I was a cybersecurity engineer in an international organization, and I was working remotely in a very good place in UNRWA. But after that, when they ended my contract, I was facing the reality that I have no work, and I need to find a work to support my family. After that, I volunteered. I volunteered in a humanitarian organization. And moving from organization to another organization, I was working with MAP UK. So I worked with 4 organizations during the genocide. 2 of them, the first one was in cybersecurity. The second was in a humanitarian field. The third in a humanitarian field. And the fourth, I reconnected my technical background with the humanitarian field, with Medical Aid for Palestinians organization. I want to move another question. So if you have money, can you buy goods? In MAP UK, I was gaining a very good salary. I didn't dream to have that salary in this age. I'm just 26 years old and I'm gaining a very good salary. But in that time, in the starvation period, I barely could bring bread and just lentils, rice to my family. I really was barely could all of that to my family, because we are not alone. We are not just 3 people. We are 8, and we were hosting another 8 people of friends. Will we eat bread while they are starving? No. I will spend all of the money that I have just to see my family eating bread. Bread, lentils, beans. But you know, the salary that I was gaining in the normal life, I will be very rich. I will go to the very expensive places. I will do everything that I want to do. But at that time, no. I was going to search by myself. After work, I was just going to the markets, which is not markets. Just few people who have some goods, some packets of rice, lentils, was going to them. Sometimes I ask them to sell this, but they don't want. I ask them, but no dignity, no any means of like considering that we are women. I just want to feed my family, but they don't want to pay. You can buy it. If you don't want, it's okay. Any other one can buy that. So yeah, it was not that easy. You will struggle to work. you will struggle to have money. If you have money, you will struggle to have it in cash. If you have it in cash, you will struggle to buy those goods.
Thank you, Aita.
So everything is very hard.
Thank you, Aita. I think all the ladies who have pointed to something, it's actually the resistance of the status quo to live and to seek life. This is very important to highlight because resistance takes many shapes, and this is one very important type of resistance. I'm going to go ahead and
I'll give a very short answer.
Yes, go on.
Yes, I think the ladies, they covered the second part completely. For the first part, what you need actually to know is that the unemployment rate in Gaza, even before the genocide, was very high, and it was like maximized in the genocide. It wasn't like very easy to find a job. These ladies are really fortunate to, for example, working in an international organization, but even that they were working there, they say they couldn't, like, for example, afford to buy all the food items. For my mother, she's a pharmacist at the Ministry of Health in Gaza. Her salary comes directly from the government, and after October 2023, all the salaries were cut for the government employees. So my mother, since the start of the genocide until now, she goes to Al-Aqsa Hospital. It's a hospital in Deir al-Balah. She works at the pharmacy, and she doesn't receive anything. She's only a volunteer. And this is like a very wide sector in Gaza, especially the people who are working in the healthcare sector, they are volunteers.
You're all about my children's age. I have two children your age, 28 and 34. I can't imagine having to live the life you've all lived and described. I was like, just your tenacity of going back and fighting for your right and your education, your right as females, you know, to serve not just you, but your family. And every day waking up, not knowing whether you're going to have internet, and you're still wanting to seek education. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Honestly, as a mother, I'm so proud of you, and as a female, I'm honored to be here in your presence, okay?
Thank you, sister. Thank you. It's so important that you take away from this sitting the strength of these ladies. We don't pity them, we celebrate them.
اليوم كنت المودريتور في هاي الكلمة اللي جدا جدا مهمة لتوثيق التاريخ اللي سيدات غزة اللي طلعوا من تحت الإبادة وعاشوا التهجير القسري وعاشوا مجازر وعاشوا مواقف يعني الإنسانية لا تقبلها، ورغم هيك طلعوا من تحت الركام على جامعات بريطانية، نساء ناجحات في حياتهم العلمية والعملية والعائلية، نساء بيحكوا قصص للتوثيق التاريخي في دولة الانتداب البريطاني اللي كانت وما زالت المفروض تأخذ مسؤولية على الفوضى اللي أنشأتها في دولة فلسطين. اليوم مهم لنعطي مساحة للتعبير المشاعري والجانب النفسي لهدول السيدات واحتوائهم من ضمن العرب في بريطانيا.
اللقاء اليوم هو لقاء جدا مهم لأنه يوثق تجارب الضحايا الذين كانوا متواجدين في غزة أثناء فترة الإبادة الجماعية، وهذه التجارب وتوثيقها وسماع قصص الفلسطينيين منهم هو شيء كتير مهم، لأنه لأطول فترة ممكنة كان العالم عم يتحدث باسمنا بدلاً من أن يسمح لنا بالتحدث، ونحن اليوم نتحدث باسمنا ونوصل رواياتنا وقضيتنا للعالم بلساننا بكلماتنا من وجهة نظرنا من وجهة نظر الضحايا وماذا حصل معهم. وإن كان هناك أي شيء له أهمية لأن يتم إظهاره اليوم أو التحدث عنه هو أهمية الصحة النفسية والاعتناء بالصحة النفسية لهؤلاء الضحايا الذين عانوا من هذه الإبادة الجماعية. من السهل جدا أنه نأتي إلى هذه اللقاءات لنسمع عن تجارب الضحايا وما مروا به. أنا كمحامي عملت كثيرا على توثيق شهادات الناجين والضحايا واستخدامها في العمل القانوني عن طريق تزويدها للفريق القانوني لجنوب أفريقيا الذي استخدمها أمام محكمة العدل الدولية، أو عن طريق تزويدها للمحكمة الجنائية الدولية، أو حتى عن طريق استخدامها في المحاكمات التي تحصل في المملكة المتحدة. وأيضا لدينا واجب بأن نجبر السياسيين في المملكة المتحدة والسياسيين في أوروبا والغرب على الاستماع لهؤلاء الشهادات، وعلى معرفة أن كلام الفلسطينيين وروايتهم هي التي يجب أن يتم الاستماع إليها، وهذا للأسف شيء يجب علينا الكفاح للحصول عليه. وحتى في بعد 2 وعامين من الإبادة الجماعية هو شيء كافحنا كثيرا الحصول عليه، ولكن هذا واجبنا تجاه وطننا وتجاه الفلسطينيين كافة، وخاصة الفلسطينيين الذين لا يزالون في غزة تحت ما يسمى بوقف إطلاق النار، الذي هو ليس وقف إطلاق نار حقيقي.
كنت في الايفنت المخصص للتستيمونيز أو الشهادات الحية الخاصة بالنساء من غزة. كان هذا الحدث ثقيل جدا لأنه كان في معنا 4 صبايا من غزة عاشوا الإبادة كاملة وحكوا تجاربهم بما يقارب 10 دقائق، فكان هذا الإشي كتير مؤثر للصبايا أو حتى للجمهور. إحنا طبعا نشكرهم إنهم كانت عندهم هاي الشجاعة إنهم يقفوا اليوم ويحكوا، وكتير فخورة إني كنت ضمن هدول الصبايا بدعمهم، وحكيت برضو عن تجربتي قبل الجينوسايد الإبادة وأيضا خلالها، وأهلي لازالوا في قطاع غزة وأحبابي لازالوا في قطاع غزة، كيف أنا كنت عايشة في بريطانيا بين عالمين متوازيين، عالم بيطلب مني إني أضل عايشة الحياة اليومية to meet my academic standards، إني دائما أواصل واجباتي الأكاديمية لأني كنت طالبة، وفي نفس الوقت أضل عين أخرى على غزة وعلى أهلي وعلى أحبابي وما إلى ذلك. فالإيفنت اليوم كان جدا مهم. دائما بننصح الناس إنهم يجوا يسمعوا، لأنه هذا أقل واجب يمكن أن يعمل في حق شعب غزة في الحقيقة. وطبعا كل الشكر لهدول الصبايا اللي عيطوا على الستيج، بكوا على الستيج، رغم ذلك قاوموا دموعهم وكملوا يحكوا قصصهم فقط لتوصيل رسالة واحدة، وهي إنه إحنا هنا في بريطانيا لا نحمل رسالتنا وحدنا، وإنما نحمل رسالة شعب كامل.
4 من الفتيات اللي شاركوا اليوم هم طالبات تم إجلائهم جديد لدراستهم بكالوريوس أو ماجستير أو دكتوراه. حكوا عن تجاربهم في غزة، عيش 2 من الإبادة، تركهم أهاليهم، التجربة أنه كيف كانوا بيحاولوا يقدموا للجامعات، يقدموا للماجستير أو الدكتوراه أو البكالوريوس والامتحانات والأمور هذه كلها في عز الإبادة والضرب والقصف وفقد الأهل والأحباب والإصابة، وهم رايحين أو عائدين من أماكن تقديم للمنح هذه. فكانت اليوم تجربة كتير مهمة ولكن كتير صعبة، سماع تجاربهم، الناس اللي فقدوهم، الأمور اللي مروا فيها. ولكني سعيدة جدا بوجود هذا الحدث، لأنه بيوثق شهادات ناس طلعت من غزة، بيوثق شهادات فتيات مش بس فلسطينيات ولكن من غزة عاشوا الإبادة، وهذه من الشغلات النادرة جدا اللي الواحد أصلا شافها في الغرب خصوصا في بريطانيا. فأنا فخورة جدا في الصبايا وفخورة جدا في هذا الإيفنت اللي على صوت الصبايا والفتيات والطالبات وحكوا عن تجاربهم في الإبادة في غزة.
موجودة في بريطانيا مما يقارب تقريبا 3 شهور حاليا. خرجت من غزة في شهر سبتمبر 2025. اليوم كان مهم بالنسبة لي كتير، لأنه أنا بحمل قصص كثيرة، قصص بتمثلني وقصص بتمثل ناس آخرين لسه موجودين في غزة أو ناس فقدوا حياتهم خلال الحرب اللي صارت على قطاع غزة. اليوم كان من الأيام اللي أثرت كتير شخصيا فيا. الواحد بتخيل إنه المعاناة اللي هو بعيشها هي خاصة فيه، لما بيقف وبسمع قصص والتستيمونيز اللي اليوم حكوها الصبايا اللي كانوا موجودين. هذا بيخليني برضو أنه أنا فخورة جدا أنه أنا قادرة أكون موجودة هان، أكون أحكي عن صوتي وعن صوت الآخرين كمان، أسمع القصص والأمور اللي غيري مروا فيها. من المهم جدا أنه إحنا نروي الرواية، لأنه إحنا أكتر ناس قادرين على أنه إحنا نحكيها، لأنه إحنا اللي عشناها.
As we come to the end of this evening, I want to begin by returning to gratitude, not as a formality, but as an acknowledgement of what they have given us. To the 6 women who shared their testimonies, thank you for your courage, for your clarity, for your trust. What you offered was not simply a narrative, but memory, and memory once shared becomes a collective responsibility. I want to be very clear about something. Bearing witness is not the same as absolution. Listening does not free us from responsibility. In fact, it creates it. What we have heard today demands more than empathy, it demands action. So now it's on our shoulders. In how institutions respond, in how educators teach, in how students organize, and in how legal professionals pursue accountability, and in how all of us speak for Palestine lives that are being devalued and erased. This is resistance for the taking. As today's talk is not meant to offer closure, there is no closure while the occupation of Palestine still stands. I want to end by acknowledging that today exists because of solidarity across institutions, across disciplines, and across borders. But above all, it exists because of 6 Palestinian women who chose to speak, even when the world has so often refused to hear them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And may what we have heard today shape what we choose to do next. Ustaz Adnan Ahmedan is going to speak to us. You don't want to speak? Okay, fair enough. We're going to present them with a very small gift as appreciation of them coming and speaking to us today, telling us their very personal stories. It is so important that even you have made the effort to come out and listen with intention. That's very important. Thank you, ladies.